Now, I know what you're thinking. Yes, this is a video about battle beasts, so why on earth am I showing you Jetfire? Well, there's a link. Jetfire is a transformer, but of course originally he wasn't. He was actually a Macross jet, which was a Veritech fighter that was piloted by a human, didn't have its own intelligence, and so on. And the same is sort of true for the battle beasts, in the sense that in Japan, the battle beasts were also transformers. And they were called Transformers Beastformers by Takara. But they didn't transform, but they did have a crossover with the Transformers, but only in Japan. So, like the Transformers here, and like Jetfire himself, they are more than meets the eye. So, anatomy of a battle beast, and no, R2-D2 has absolutely no connection with battle beasts whatsoever, but he does form an excellent unit of measure to compare a battle beast with. So as you can see, a battle beast is slightly shorter than one R2-D2 from Kenner back in the day. Well, I'll say Kenner, could it be Palatoy? I don't know. That's not my area. Let's talk about battle beasts. So, these guys came in, if I remember rightly, packs of 2 typically, although there were some multi-packs I think later on. And the very simple idea behind battle beasts was that they had chest rubs, which, not unlike the Transformers, you could heat up to reveal not an allegiance so much, but an element. So they could be wood or fire or water, and that would determine whether or not one battle beast could defeat another in battle, funnily enough. Now, I don't know whether these rubs are still active or whether or not you'd be able to see them even if they were, to be honest. They're probably very old and probably don't want to do a great deal being of a certain age, but they would, if they were working, display their particular allegiance. And I'm not entirely sure if you would know before you opened the pack what allegiance they were. I'll say allegiance, what elements they were. Now, I picked up a few of these over time. I've picked some up from shops like Forever Retro, and I've picked some up at toy fairs and so on as I've gone along as well. This chap is called Colonel Bird, and he is the 4th battle beast to be released. And in total, there were 76 of this sort of battle beast. Now, here's a funny story. And it is a funny story. It's generally a funny story because it's one of those childhood memories that for some reason has really stuck with me. And I'm not going to reveal that I have a massive hoard of these from my childhood, because I really don't. But I obviously picked some of these up when I was quite relatively young, and when battle beasts were quite young, because a lot of them that I've picked up, I've now discovered are numbered quite early in the numbering of battle beasts, which suggests to me that they would have been amongst the first out. So here we have also Sledgehammer Elephant, and again I'm pretty sure that I had him when I was little, and he was number 8. Definitely remember this guy, Rocky Rhino, who was number 9. Now, you'll notice that I'm doing quite well on the weapons front. Having their handheld weapons increases their value, basically, and also increases the cost that you have to pay to get them. But what I always appreciated with battle beasts was that not all of them, but a lot of them also had alternate hands, which were, built-in weapons, basically. Which I appreciated, because it meant that even if you didn't have his weapon to hand, or more importantly from my point of view, if you took him to school in your pocket, you could leave the weapon at home, but you could still have a scrap. So that was nice. I don't have loads of these when all is said and done, but I do have 7. And in fact, I've missed one. And now, the Killer Carp is number 5. So in terms of my ordering here, I should probably go Colonel Bird, who is 4, Killer Carp, which is one of my more recent acquisitions. Not sure if I actually had him or not, but he is cool. And then I'll come back to discuss why I think they're cool as well. Sledgehammer Elephant was 8, Rocky Rhino was 9, and at 12 I've got the Blitzkrieg Bat. Ooh, poor so-and-so only has a hook for a hand there. I'll put him in front for now just so you can see him. Then I have got Danger Dog at number 21. And finally I have Web Slinger Spider at 27. So that is my little squad of battle beasts at the moment when all's said and done. And now you can probably get the idea already that this was a really colourful series. You know, there's only 7 there, but we've got a sort of turquoise, we've got sort of pinky purple, we've got sort of paler pink, we've got yellow, orange, green, more purple. Okay, I'm sensing a trend here. But the point is, they're all quite unique. I mean, yes, they're all animal based, but that was the whole point. They're battle beasts after all. What do you expect, you know? But they were all, you know, they were all very, very different. They weren't just kind of repaints of one another or anything like that. They all had their own little sort of characters and so on. So I really appreciated them for that. Now, the funny story about these is that they ran from the mid-80s through to the late 80s. The last ones came out in about 89, but by that point, they decided to go a different way with them. And by the end of their run, they were giving them guns. Not blades, but guns. Big guns. And chariots. And shields. So, oh, and they also changed, instead of having a little sticker here, you got a sort of a glass ball, which displayed the element when light shone through it. And they were the laser beasts. And they were also called Shadow Warriors at that point as well. Now, I was on holiday in France when I was about 13. I just turned 13 actually. So I can carbon date that pretty well. And for whatever reason, I think our coach stopped at a hypermarché, a hypermarket, supermarket, and I picked up a battle charger, which is a battle beast and his battle chariot and a shield and a gun. And I checked last night, and the one that I picked up was actually number 100. So they went beyond the numbering of the original 76 that were released by Takara and Hasbro in 86. And they ended up with, and he looks like he might have been the last one at number 100. So unbeknownst to me, I got some of the earliest ones, and then years later, I must have spotted this in France and picked him up. And the interesting thing was, apparently, that was a really, really limited run. They only released certain models in the EU, and only in very limited quantities as the line was sort of petering out a bit. So it's actually quite remarkable that I ended up with that one. No idea where it's gone. I doubt it's even at my parents' house. You know, it probably just went at some point. But I did have a very clear mental image of him and bringing him back from France because he was different and because he had a gun, and that wasn't a normal battle beast thing. And just strange that I kind of bookended my collection like that by getting perhaps one of the final battle beasts actually produced at the time. They also did some play sets as well. But I don't remember seeing any of those, and you can even get sort of a bandolier. But ironically, the thing that's actually sort of prompted me to do this video right now was in part picking up a few more of these guys, but also because I picked up the annual. And I wasn't looking for it, but it was a classic sort of, you know, eBay sort of, hey look, you might like this kind of thing. And what intrigued me about it was that whoever did the annual had actually thought really hard about what battle beasts actually were, and the sort of raison d'etre behind them as a toy line, basically. So I received in the end this rather natty looking annual, And as I say, I hadn't really, even when I was getting other annuals, I didn't notice this one being available particularly. I mean, I'm not sure I was particularly looking for it, but it probably would have piqued my interest just because of its era and everything else. So I can't even name all the ones on the front here, but I'm pretty sure I had that giraffe. And I think I probably had that one as well. These are quite early ones. Now you'll see that is actually Colonel Bird. So you can see that they've been, so that guy on the front there is actually that guy there. So but they've hand drawn them all. You know, they haven't actually used the toys. There aren't any toy images in here. And this is a 1988 annual. It's produced in 1987. That's the copyright year. And that means that they were definitely out at that point. So they could have done that if they'd wanted to. You know, they could have actually included toy pictures, but for some reason they didn't do that. And you can see that they've got the fire, the wood, and the water there as the various sort of emblems on the chest of the battle beast. And what they've done here, they've done something quite interesting. And hello to Adam Shuttlewood of Class 3, whose annual this originally was. Is that the fish guy I've got as well? It could be actually, yeah. So actually, I'm doing pretty well here. So that's the fish guy, I think. Although, yeah, I think it must be. But they seem to have given him a few more bits of webbing down here. But yeah, that looks not dissimilar to him, and the weapon's definitely spot on as well, actually. But interestingly, his weapon is actually sticking out of his. That's coming out of his forearm there, but it should be held in his hand like that. But you can see the resemblance, yes? So whoever was doing it really well. But basically what this is, they've done it in a sort of page-turning, adventure-y sort of way, but it's not quite as detailed as you might think in that sense. But I do like the idea behind this. I think they've played it quite nicely. So you get a sort of it tells you to sort of pick your battle beast. It explains here how battle beasts work. Fire beats wood equals fire, loses to water, and so on. You know, that's pretty sort of straightforward. You've got a little combat sheet there. But then they've got this emblem spinner, and they're saying make a hole and put a used match through the centre. Using tracing paper, copy this spinner with the fire, wood, and water emblems. Make a hole through the centre and put a used match through it. Thick card makes the sturdiest spinner. So the idea was that you would go through this book, spin the spinner, and determine how your combats went off the back of what the spinner did. And you follow the instructions and you go through this and you start on different pages according to which beast you choose. The funny thing is that you might remember that the official names for the ones I've just shown you are Colonel Bird, Blitzkrieg Bat, Danger Dog, Sledgehammer Elephant, Rocky Rhino, Web Slinger Spider, and Killer Carp. Now that was clearly deemed a little bit too hardcore for a children's annual. So all these guys are Carp Beast, Deer Beast, Fox Beast, Tortoise Beast, Giraffe Beast, and so on. So they've just given them beast names, basically. They haven't actually called them by their official toy names. So again, it's a slightly odd choice when you're tying it into an actual toy, a toy line as such, which people are supposed to understand. But this is what they've chosen to do, which, as I say, I find slightly curious. But there you go. And so you've got various scenarios. As I say, it's all nicely illustrated. They've all, it's all got the hand-drawn stuff. And as I say, there's no sign of any sort of direct advertising for the actual toys themselves. It's quite strange. They all seem to have pretty much spot-on weapons for their various characters, but they're not using the characters' full names anywhere. But the clever thing is, it sort of says that, the battle beast turns. So whichever one you're playing is you are the battle beast. And you have various meetings with various other battle beasts and have various scraps and so on. And by the end of it, you should have encountered 20 other battle beasts, and you sort of fought them, and you've had an outcome. But I just thought this was a really unusual approach to an annual. I've never seen an annual that adopts a completely sort of dedicated format like this, and it's got other puzzles in the middle of it as well. But it's completely adopted the idea behind Battle Beasts. So every single time you're doing something here, you're following it through, and it's a complete sort of story of combat as you go through. But you're actually kind of involved with it, and it's kind of interactive in the sense that you're determining the outcome of the combats. And there aren't any sort of independent stories. All the stories are just tied into this one sort of journey that you're making and fighting other battle beasts as you go. That just tickled me for some reason. It's got lots of sort of cut out things for you to do as well, which again is unusual. But yeah, I just thought I'd share that with you, because I don't know how unusual it is, as I say, to come across the annual itself, but it's in really nice condition. And it's just got a lot of nice illustrations, and I think this sort of thing really helps to bring toy lines alive for kids, or used to back in the day, I suppose, because it means you can sort of you can attribute behaviours and personalities to these characters, which perhaps it would be harder. I mean, obviously this is what the cartoons are always for, but I don't think that we got any Battle Beast cartoons over here. I think they actually used from what I remember, they used the toys in the adverts. I don't think they actually used animated versions of the Battle Beasts in the adverts. I think they actually used Battle Beasts, which is good, really, basically, as you'd expect. But it is funny how they're not using them. Oh, no, that's interesting. I didn't actually notice there was a comic. I looked through this last night and I did not notice there was a comic. Battle Beasts, they battle for fun. That's the thing. That's their tagline. The jungle was alive with the war cry of the warrior creatures, but even their fearsome chant was drowned by the noise of the storm. Lightning ripped through the sky, and a split second later, by a freak of nature, the fallen trees crashed into each other. Yeah. Oh, right, so this is all to do with the King of the Hill thing. They're all trying to be King of the Hill. Yeah, this is good. So I mean, this is just echoing what's happening in the text, but I completely missed this when I was looking through it. I think I must have skipped a page to get to the answers to the puzzles, and then I missed this bit. It was quite late. A game for 2 or more players. You'll need a die encounters. It's just nicely done. It's nicely done. Incredibly well illustrated as well. I mean, there's sort of an illustration on pretty much every page going. I kind of feel sad for the annual creators, because they never seem to get really called out in terms of who's doing the the imagery and stuff. Well, I think they've done a really nice job of it. So as you can see, there's loads and loads to it. There's loads and loads of pages to sort of work through, and following it through is its own little sort of adventure. And then interestingly, at the end here, it sort of says it's peace or combat. So sometimes they don't fight each other, sometimes they're just at peace, which I thought was quite nice. I'm sentimental, what can I say? This is the funny thing, Battle Beast rating, under 200. It really wasn't your Battle Beast day. Get some sleep, practice hard, and try again. Over 200. A good fighter, but he needs to be more consistent in his victories. A better balance between courage and caution should improve his performance. Over 300. A Battle Beast with one of the best chances of getting to the top of that hill. A few more successful combats and he could be there. Over 400. King of the Hill. Your Battle Beast is the supreme champion. He has the strength, courage and cunning that you need to climb to the top. Truly the greatest. But remember, tomorrow is another day, and there are plenty of other Battle Beasts out there who want to be King of the Hill. So it's like gladiators, only with Battle Beasts. They're like 2 inches tall. So yeah. But I just thought I just share that with you as a bit of a giggle. Am I collecting the Battle Beasts? I'm not sure. I have 7, which is depressingly is under 10% of them, as it turns out. I was hoping perhaps they were a slightly smaller run. But those aren't the only ones, of course, because on top of those 76, there are also the Laser Beasts, So those shadow warriors that I was talking about. And it looks like some of those might have been only available in Japan. So interestingly, they seem to have for some reason split the Japanese and European markets even back then in the mid-80s. So it's kind of, I dare say this is why a lot of people go to a lot of trouble to try and hunt all of these down, because clearly the quantities of the later ones are not as high. I remember when I first saw them in Forever Retro, the laser beasts were eye-wateringly expensive compared to the standard battle beasts. So it's like, I'll just have some normal ones. I'll just have a couple of the normal ones, please. So I think if you're going to sort of focus fire on battle beasts, and you want the weapons with them as well, then you are going to have to put aside a fair chunk of cash, because I don't think that getting all of them would be all that straightforward. And I think probably the cheapest one I picked up is one that doesn't have one of the rubs on it. I mean, I really don't think that all the rubs are actually operational anyway. I think sometimes you can kind of see what they're supposed to be. But you do need the eye of faith, and you probably need a good bit of sunlight to be able to actually sort of see it. But these things are 86, so nearly 40 years old now. That's crazy. And yet they're still here and they've still got their weapons. I mean, how crazy is that? That you can still put these guys together and they've still got their weapons with them. It's pretty crazy. So, I mean, I do enjoy the way that they were designed. I like the fact that they are sort of a crossover between armour and animals. I think that's a nice idea. They remind me a little bit of Transformers Pretenders, actually, which were sort of more of a mix. Even actually some of the latter sort of headmasters and stuff. I'm thinking of like people like Skullgrin and that sort of thing. You can see that was a route they started to go down to try and keep things fresh. But I just think it's quite a jolly little band that I've gathered there, and you could do worse. There's a little sort of a dabbling collection, because the plus side is, of course, they don't take up a lot of space at all. So there is that. As collectibles go, they are very easy to fit into your collection. So I'm sure many of you will know a lot more about these and may well have your own collections of them. But let me know in the comments if these are something that you're interested in. I know there's a very good reference book you can get, obviously beyond this annual, that someone's sort of crowdfunded, and I see that quite a lot in the toy fairs, which perhaps I should pick it up at some point. And I think that allows you to sort of monitor how well your collection is doing against the full set. But yeah, I mean, as I say, let me know in the comments if you've got a few of these. Which one was your favourite growing up? And I do remember I have such very strong childhood memories of these. I associate them with particular places for whatever reason. When I was just sort of going through a phase of bringing one with me, and I just and they are the perfect size to just stick in your pocket, and you leave the weapons behind. You don't need to worry about bits falling off them. You just take them and go. It's great. I don't know if there was anything similar to these. Perhaps you'll let me know in the comments if there were any sort of similar, sort of beast animals. Maybe they were spin-offs of these. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. Let me know if you've got any sort of similar favourites of a similar size, and I will leave you there for now. Cheers.